I guess maybe the funniest or interesting answer I got was Enrique Olvera in
a legend
from LA, from Pujol in Mexico City, and I know one of the responses in the book basically says, "Don't take any advice." I'm like, it's an advice book, and he's saying, "Don't take any." So
I get that, right?
Yeah.
We started so well. That was so good.
All right, welcome to a brand new episode of Bang Kong Podcast. We are, after a long time away from this space, we are at the North Terrace at Ariete.
It's so epic, right?
It is.
I love it here.
We had gotten used to Chug's Diner
indoors
for a little bit, being indoors, being in a booth.
Yeah, in a booth.
And now we're back out here. Luckily, the weather is good for it.
It's perfect.
I am Nick Jimenez, and I am joined as usual by 8th grade basketball MVP, chili cook-off champion, and alleged chef Michael Beltrán.
That's what they say.
That's right. We are joined by very special guest, Shari Bayer. I'm just reading the boilerplate thing that I found from, I think this is from your publisher.
Okay, go for it.
Has over 30 years of experience in the hospitality industry, from working the floor at Charlie Trotter's restaurant in Chicago. We did a whole podcast event.
I can't wait. I want to ask so much about that.
I listened to that. It was very nice.
A good time.
Was it?
Yes,
Oh,
and
wait.
I've seen the movie.
I want to
Yeah.
keep going.
To founding the New York City PR agency Bayer Public Relations in 2003 and establishing her podcast, All in the Industry. That's the name of the podcast, not a description of what I just said. The podcast is called All in the Industry on Heritage Radio Network, a member-supported radio station with more than 1 million monthly listeners worldwide. So far for us to catch up from about 23.
Man. We only have like 25 listeners, so it's pretty good.
And she just recently,
nice round number.
Just recently published, and you can prop it up a little, do your like Vanna White impression. Her new book, Chefwise: Life Lessons from Leading Chefs Around the World. That's Phaidon Press, right?
Yes, Phaidon.
I'm sorry.
Phaidon.
Phaidon, banana, fanafel,
Phaidon. Yes.
That's it.
Thank
That's all
you.
I got. That's the
Wow.
whole thing.
They're a great publisher, Phaidon.
Yes, they are. They're known for doing beautiful books.
Yeah, I
And
know. I love their books.
in my outreach, I think having Phaidon in the subject line with chefs who I wasn't familiar with definitely helped in getting responses.
So first of all, thank you for doing this very crazy. We call this like a guerrilla podcast. We go everywhere. We do everything at every time. It could be at 9 o'clock at night. It could be at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It could be at Chug's. It could be on the North Terrace. I appreciate you so much for doing this. Before we get into the book and the 30 years PR and all that stuff, tell me about working the floor at Charlie Trotter's.
Okay, and I appreciate you, and I love that we're doing like a late night podcast. It's really fun.
It's ideal for me.
I'm a night owl, so this is like cool. Charlie Trotter. So after college, I went to University of Michigan, and I moved to Chicago, and I was working in restaurants, front of the house. Back of the house, I went to cooking school when I lived in Chicago, and I had this moment where I wanted to be a chef. And my plan after cooking school, I was going to go to Europe and cook. This was the plan. And I had Charlie Trotter's book. I didn't have that many cookbooks at the time.
Which one?
I had the seafood one.
Oh, yeah.
And
I have them all. I love them all.
I have 3 of them now. I don't have all of them, but I just remember like looking through these beautiful pictures of food, and I was sort of like, how do you do that? Like,
Right.
I was just fascinated. And I saw he was hiring front of the house staff, and I had more front of the house experience than back, and I went in and I ended up getting a job as a server, and this is 1997. He was at about his 10-year mark. We celebrated his 10-year anniversary when I was there, and he was so ahead of the curve. I mean, he was doing his vegetable tasting menu, his regular tasting menu, and it was a tough job because people were coming in nightly for this meal that they had highest expectations, celebrating birthdays, anniversaries, and there just weren't as many fine dining restaurants in Chicago or anywhere doing at that caliber what he was doing. So I learned so much. I thought it was like grad school in the culinary arts. I describe him as being intense and a perfectionist, and working for someone with, who has those characteristics is hard, but it also pushes you to be your best. And I value that experience so much. Like, that's why it's in my shorter bio, because I feel like it's a very important part of, I think, my career, and even though it kind of changed the direction of what I was, I cooked for a little bit after I was garde manger at a jazz club restaurant in Chicago, making $7 an hour, and kind of like gave that a shot. But I think today, like, however I got to where I am today, all of that helps me in understanding and working with chefs and restaurants. And I am grateful for Charlie Trotter. I'm sad he passed.
I am too. I never worked for him. Obviously, like, my mentor and him were best friends, just like knowing his work so well. And
wait, your mentor was Norman?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because Norman, Emerald, and
Charlie were like the best of friends. And knowing, actually, Charlie's book is how I got introduced to Norman, because I'm like, who is this guy holding this gigantic fish? And then I did research on Norman. I bought a Norman book because I was looking at someone else's cookbook at that time, and that's how I fell in love with Norman's food. And then my entire goal at that time was to go work for Norman, and then I did, and he's been a great influence on my life. But like what Charlie did for American food at that time, and like, especially now we're in 2024 talking about, like, 11 Madison is completely vegetable or whatever. Like, Charlie was doing vegetable tastings 30 years ago, and no one really talks about that and the impact that had to where it is now. And I just find it like incredibly like important in the progress of the food landscape of America in general. Like, guys like Charlie need to be talked about, like guys how Thomas Keller talked about, the Jeremiah Towers of the world, and the Dean Fearings, Charlie Trotter, Thomas Keller, Larry Forgione. Like, those guys really set the tone for food a long time ago.
This episode of Pan Con Podcast is brought to you by our sponsor, Blackened M81 Cigars by Drew Estate. M81 Cigars by Drew Estate is a passion project brought to you by three immensely talented and vastly experienced cigar enthusiasts: Jonathan Drew, of course, founder and president of Drew Estate; James Hetfield, Metallica co-founder, singer, and guitarist; and Rob Dietrich, the master distiller and blender of blackened American whiskey. M81 Cigars has a wrapper of Mexican San Andreas, a binder of Connecticut broadleaf, and fillers are a blend of Nicaraguan and Pennsylvania broadleaf. M81 comes in 4 different sizes: Robusto, Corona Doble, Corona, and Toro. I've previously smoked a Corona. I enjoyed it. This is a Toro. I think for me personally, I enjoy the Corona the most, but I think for any avid cigar smoker, you're going to go through all 4 of these and you're going to enjoy them all differently. For more information on M81 cigars, just visit drewestate.com and they'll get you everything you need.
This episode of Pan Con Podcast is brought to you by Perla Specialty Roasters. Perla produces an award-winning coffee portfolio. They are a 4-time Good Food Award finalist and 2-time winner. Perla uses coffee directly sourced from around the world, using relationships on the farm level. They view their coffee portfolio as a way for coffee partners, like Ariete Hospitality Group, to further enhance their guest experience.
I really love what their brand represents from a local standpoint. They're very immersed in the community, and they've been very supportive of all of our places, even before we used to serve Perla. So when we decided to partner with them and make them our coffee provider across the board, they've been great to work with.
And with such intention placed on the food and bar program, shouldn't your restaurant have the same attention to detail? Their espresso fino blend was specifically designed to pair great with milk, making it amazing for latte or cortadito. Perla's biggest competition is the large, soulless, multinational roasting operations. You like that, soulless?
So good. It's like the final boss. You have to beat the soulless,
The big
multinational
fucking Folgers
roasting-
monster or something.
roasting operations. It's like a Maxwell House thing walking up to you. It's good.
They can also solve equipment needs with sales, leasing, and service operations available at their disposal. With lightning-fast order fulfillment, orders roast and ship the same day. Sometimes Chug's Diner gets its order the same day the coffee was roasted.
I can 100% say that that's actually happened more than once. From a customer service standpoint, they're pretty incredible to work with for sure.
With initial and ongoing staff training to make sure that their coffee is tasting on point.
Yeah, I think there's 2 points there that are incredibly true just because I've lived them. It's like when it comes to equipment issues, how willing they are to help us in the maintenance standpoint of equipment, because coffee equipment, unless you have years and years of knowledge, you have no idea how to even start. And then the ongoing staff training, it's something that they talk about with us several times, whether they want to come in and do training us on how to make the coffee or just education on the coffee. They've been really great.
To get all of your coffee situation on point, drinkperla.com. That's drinkperla.com, drinkperla.com, to get your coffee situation on point and move away from those soulless operations.
Maxwell House, big boss. Okay.
This episode of Pan Con Podcast is brought to you by our sponsor, Wild Fork. With over 500 cuts, Wild Fork offers the best variety of meat and seafood anywhere, from everyday grocery staples to premium Wagyu and exotic meats like alligator, elk, ostrich, and even foie gras. But there's more to Wild Fork than just high-quality protein and the lowest prices in the market. Their meat and seafood is carefully sourced and hand-picked to ensure the finest quality and flavor. They offer a wide range of options, from organic and grass-fed to sustainably sourced catches, all fit for your special feast. For me personally, Wild Fork offers an opportunity to get random things like beef bones, marrow bones. We make beef broth at home with Wild Fork's bones. It's pretty delicious. They even offer quiche, and it's very juicy. Like this one here, it's very juicy. It's very nice. And their empanadas, our good friend Louis said that these are some of the best store-bought empanadas he's ever had. Wild Fork offers a lot of opportunities. They even have frozen breads that are good for events and so on and so forth. So I'm a big proponent of shopping there. They also have oxtail. I'm a huge fan. I definitely think that they have a great product. If you've never shopped at Wild Fork before, I got some news for you. New users can go to wildforkfoods.com and use promo code PANCON20 to grab yourself a discount. Now the code is case sensitive, so needs to be in all caps. But do yourself a favor, use the code, get a discount. Code can be applied only once per customer. So if you're a house of 4, just change it up every time. Do yourself a favor. And again, the promo code is PANCON20, right? PANCON. Numbers 2 and 0. PANCON20, not pumpkin 20, not panko 20, PANCON20.
And I just think it's such an important experience, and that's why, like, anytime anyone ever mentions Charlie, I ask so deeply, like, what was it like? Because, my experience with Norman was amazing, but that was my experience. So, like, having an opportunity to work for a guy like Trotter was probably pretty pivotal, I would assume.
Yeah, no, it was very special. I mean, I remember our staff meetings, before service, and sit in one of the rooms, and you didn't know if Charlie was gonna kind of call on you or ask you something, because he had things you didn't know exactly what was on his mind. But when he did call on you and ask your opinion about something, it was stressful.
I'm sure.
But it was. The team there, you really bonded with each other, and I learned so much. I learned about wine. I learned about service.
He was a big wine guy, from what I understand.
Yeah, he had a wonderful wine program. And also, I was I actually also volunteered one day a week and went in earlier than my shift, which was already like a 12-hour shift. But I went in a few hours early because I wanted to be in the kitchen. And so I helped prep in the kitchen for one day a week. And I just remember then seeing these like giant fish from Japan being flown in and seeing like the chefs break them down. And it was fascinating. And it was I mean, he's legendary. And I mean, with the vegetable tasting menu, I remember it being pretty much as popular as the regular because you had the choice.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was 50-50 for, what people were choosing, but it was people were, it was amazing menu. And I actually have a folder back in my apartment of menus. I
love that.
I kept menus because it changed every single day.
It's crazy.
And I have this, I must have 100 menus printed, and every day, new menu.
So epic.
So, yes, epic.
That's so epic.
Yeah,
I'm sure you feel it more than I do. I'm just like,
well, I feel lucky I had the opportunity to work there and to have these, this experience, because not everyone gets to work with a chef at that caliber and be a part of it. And it definitely, helped shape my career.
So that was 96?
Yeah, 96, 97.
So what happened after that?
Well,
let's go back to the fact you were born here.
I was born here.
Miami, Florida.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
Yes, I am a Miamian. My parents are
Welcome back.
Thank you. My parents are from New York, but my mom and dad moved down here when
Can you ask them for another one? Yeah, thanks.
So my mom and dad moved down here when my mom was pregnant with me. So I was born here, Baptist Hospital. Went to Palmetto Junior High School, Palmetto High School. Ooh. I was a chatnet.
What's a chatnet?
I was in the dance line. And I love being from Miami. My parents still live in Pinecrest area by Palmetto. And I love visiting and being in the Grove where we are now. I mean, this is where we hung out. I graduated high school in 91. So in the late 80s, the Grove was really thriving.
I mean, the Grove has had like so many decade over decade evolutions.
Yes.
Being from Miami too, it's like, I remember, and I mean, we were 8.5 years old now. So like when we opened in the Grove, people were like, the Grove is dead. And I'm like, just relax.
Well,
take it easy.
Yeah, people like to say fine dining is dead, I guess, but
that's definitely far from true. But yeah.
There's been stages with Cocoa Walk. I remember when that was, built and then it changed and just different
rebuilt.
Yeah, and different. I mean, I have a lot of memories from hanging out here, and it's a special part of Miami, Coconut Grove, and you are kind of like the king of Coconut Grove.
No, I'm just a part of it.
Okay, you're just a little part of it, but we've got a lot of amazing restaurants here, and
we love the Grove. I think the Grove is super special. It's one of the most historic parts of Miami. I think we're lucky to be here because like I said, 9 years ago when we were working on this deal, it was like no one wants to open a real restaurant in the Grove, but no one has really fucking tried. So let's try. And luckily it worked out to our advantage, and now we have several operations in the Grove, and the Grove is great to us, and we try to be great to the Grove. And that's and not just great to the Grove, but just great to Miami in general. And I really do love it here, and I really do love all of Miami in general, but the Grove has been really great to us, and we really try our hardest for them.
Yeah, well, as I said, it's a special place, and you do have several awesome restaurants here, which I came here to Ariete in 2021 for my birthday when I was here. It was the first time I'd seen my parents since the pandemic. It was like a year without seeing them, and we came here for my birthday, and it was fantastic.
Thank you. I mean, it's the one thing I love about this place in general is that like year over year it continues to evolve. Jeff, just cross. You're good. Come on. It continues to evolve because people like Jeff and continue to like fine tune and grow, and it's like a very organic, real growth. It's like a fine dining restaurant that's still like a mom and pop restaurant, and that's why I love it so deeply. It's like in 2021 it was probably great. Like now I think it's probably much better.
Wow. It was amazing. And you have a Michelin star now.
Yes.
Here, which is congratulations. That's
thank you.
Awesome.
Stressful, but also great.
Well, yeah, I guess it changes people's expectations
I less worry about like people's expectations and our expectations on ourselves. I think sometimes the most stressful part is that for me as kind of like the architect of what we do here, I never want us to lose sight of who we are, which is like we're a fun place. We're not stale. We have fun with food. We love what we do. We love our guests. We love our space. And I think sometimes when it comes to like super fine dining restaurants, they kind of become a little stale and a little sterile. So like I don't ever want to become that. And that's kind of something I try to remind the people in this building as much as possible, because it's hard when like every time someone's like talking about a star and you want to talk about the star, like it's much more than that. It's much more like I want to be here for 20 years. I don't want to be here just for 5 or 2 or whatever. I want something that people can come to over and over and over again and enjoy, and I think that's bigger than a star. The star is still super important, and it's great, and it's an honor. But the concept at its core means much more than the star. I think, really what the mindset is for like the staff and for the people and for me in general. So, born here, moved back to New York.
Born here. And I worked in restaurants a bit when I was down here, like summer jobs, Bennigan's and Chili's, and
oh man,
and
I worked at Applebee's, so I get that.
My first job, as soon as I could drive at age 16, I got a job at a place called Carlos and Pepe's, which doesn't exist anymore. It was in the mall near the strip mall near Dadeland.
Okay.
And I went in there. I got a job as a hostess and came home and told my parents. And they're like, "You got a job?" I'm like, "Yeah, I got a job in a restaurant." I don't know. I was always driven, wanting to work in restaurants and surround myself with that for whatever reason. But after high school, I graduated and I went to the University of Michigan. And that's what brought me north. And when I was at school, I did not know exactly what I wanted to do. I got a general liberal arts degree. I also had some jobs up there. I was like cocktail waitress at a bar and surrounding myself, I guess, in the restaurant industry. So after college, then I still really didn't know what I wanted to do, but I ended up moving to Chicago as a big city near-ish, Michigan,
cool
Ann
city.
Arbor. And Ann Arbor actually had a really, it was a great college town, but it also had really great food. And Zingerman's, everyone knows Zingerman's there as like famous deli. That's beyond that at this point. But I don't know. I moved to Chicago and I kind of just was like trying to figure out what I wanted to do and ended up as an office manager at a microbrewery called Rock Bottom Brewery.
Cool.
And then eventually going to cooking school and then the job at Trotter. So I was in Chicago for 3 years. Still, like, I don't know, until I moved to New York in 98 and I ended up, I dabbled in things like recipe testing and food styling. And I had a lot of jobs in my 20s. And
As a lot of people do.
Yeah. And my career, I never had a plan, but I was always passionate and driven and I've always like gone for things. And so I ended up at a PR firm in around 2000 that did mostly restaurant PR in New York. And we worked with Bobby Flay and Todd English and did these like big openings, like Sushi Samba when they opened it first in New York. And so that's when I had this like aha moment of, okay, maybe this is what I can do with my career. I can work with chefs and restaurants and represent them and take all this experience that I have from waiting tables and cooking for a little bit and help other businesses. So that's kind of how I got to then starting my own PR company in 2003, which I still do. I still have my company 20 years later working mostly with chefs and restaurants. So
I think PR is an interesting subject I'd love to dive into.
Dive away.
I'd love to I'd love to understand more, because I think the landscape has changed so dramatically in 20 years.
True. I mean, when I started, there was no social media.
Right. I mean, when I started in food, there was no social media either. And it was like, so now in this world that we live in with PR, I just, and especially like me as a restaurant owner, it's so hard to have the PR conversation because, so when, like my PR company, I love them dearly and I give them a super hard time all the time.
Can I ask who you're working with?
Bressman and Carino.
Okay. Yeah,
I mean,
they're big. I mean, I know of them. They're big down here in Miami.
Larry Carino is a very dear friend.
Yeah.
I call him my consigliere all the time. I think that he's incredibly knowledgeable. I just think that the landscape has become so dramatically different, right? And it's like, so, and my PR company doesn't do this, but I would assume a lot do this because I've seen a lot of it happen, which is they fold to the influencer side of what food has become, right? And it's, in my mind, incredibly cheapening, right, for like what we do. Like I could only imagine someone like Charlie Trotter being like, there's an influencer that wants to come and they want to do this thing and they want to do this video and all this stuff. And I could only imagine what Charlie's response would be to that.
Yeah.
And I think about it like people like that, like these like very important humans that were very important to like food in the last like 50 years. What would they say to that? And I think about like now, and I think about like a new restaurateur, right? Like we're super fortunate. We've been around for almost a decade. People like our stuff. People come, we control a lot of our own social, all of our own social. And, we dictate our own term of like how we want to be perceived as a brand. But I think about like the new restaurateur and the new person that just wants to be successful and they want to be like, like maybe their food's great, maybe their food sucks. Like there's, it's a 50-50 all the time. Their food could change the world, their food could not. It's super easy. But they fold to like the influencer side so hard. You as a PR person, what do you tell that person?
Tell the influencer person or the
No,
chef?
the chef.
Client.
The client.
The PR.
The client.
The restaurant.
Your client.
My client.
What do you tell them?
I mean, I guess I come from a place of being, it's good to do lots of outreach and have lots of different perspectives, or people get their information different places. So some people might only read Eater Miami. Some people might only read the Miami Herald. Some people might only watch news or the Today Show or listen to podcasts or follow Instagram or so I think it's good to pitch or spread information lots of different places, but I think you just have to be true to your brand. And also, I think social media influencers, the ones that I have relationships with, I think are passionate about what they do. They kind of, they care about restaurants and they supporting them. And I think it's great to mix in having influencers with more traditional journalists who are writing articles, because it's a different outlook for spreading information. And Instagram has become so popular in the chef restaurant world because it's pictures of food and people are eating with their eyes first and all that,
videos and so on and so forth. I also think that like the world of the influencer, quote unquote, there are like the really good ones There are the really bad ones.
Yeah.
There
same.
are the ones that want to wear a bikini with a large slice of pizza. And then there's the ones that like really care about like fundamentally the food and the human and the thing. Just like anything in life, there's like there's several silos of like the people who really give a fuck and the people who don't and the people who are just trying to make money, right? I just feel like when I look at the next 20 years of food and how we get the word across to humans, to our guests, I feel like it's just it becomes foggier and foggier every single day. And it's really as someone in the PR realm and world, I can only find it very difficult because me as a client, I look at it, it's like when I read questions from said journalist and I'm like, these are the real, and I think about like the people I grew up reading, and then I read these questions, I'm like, this is the deepest we can dig about like fundamentally about what matters about food. And like, people who really care about food, like, it's my entire life. It's, the industry is your entire life. There's so much more, as to and I think that's where in the next 10 years, we're at this very interesting crossroad of information when it comes to food, because a lot of things are going to become, or they already have become, like an Instagram moment, or what's the other one that everyone
TikTok,
that one that everyone uses, right? It's more of a moment instead of a meaning.
Yeah, and there's almost this pressure now to not only be posting pictures, but it's like doing reels or doing like how Instagram is sort of programming or like suggesting to get more followers to do that and to do videos, and people say videos is the direction things are going in. It's interesting. I mean, when I started PR, there wasn't social media. But it's about, PR has always been in life, everything. It's about relationships. And I try my best to work. I want to only work with good people. Right. And I want to be working with journalists and social media influencers or who are good people. And there are. I've met a lot of great people. And it's interesting to watch this space, or even in living in New York. I mean,
New York is and I don't live there and I don't cook there, but like I could only imagine it's somewhat of a different animal.
How so?
Well, wow, how so? So, I mean, Miami is a very like glitz and glamour place, right? It's all about like, the steak in a box, with all the glitz and glamour and the thing, and we're paying $1,000 for a steak that's fucking trash. Yeah.
The club restaurant sort of thing.
Club-sterant is what we call them here. And then, like I really do believe in Miami as a space because there's so many like great, incredible chefs here, like doing their most. The Val Changs, Nando Changs, Alex and Lucci from Boyade. There's just like, there's so many. Yeah. Like there's so many great people, right? And then, then there's that. Then there's the steak in a box, and I've seen that video so many times, and it, like I'm just kind of like, what the fuck is that, right? And I think about that like that's in a silo. Like there's like the shitty Miami food, and then there's the great Miami food. I just wonder what it's like in New York.
Well, New York, we have everything. I mean, I dine out all the time. I love dining out. I love supporting restaurants. I love all different types of cuisine. Where's your
favorite place to eat in New York? I'm going to put you on the spot. I can do that.
I hate that question.
I know, it's so tough.
Because you can't really... The thing is, I don't want to... Or I like the variety of New York, that we have amazing pizza, Thai food, burgers, sushi. I mean, our sushi's, it's like unbelievable the choices we have. It's gotten very expensive. I mean, you got to kind of, I can only do omakases here and there, just budget a little bit. But the thing I love with New York is the variety, and also like really you can get anything like
Anything in
any
every
time of
corner.
day pretty
Right.
much too. And so we're spoiled that way. And but with the media or doing PR, I mean, even though it's a huge city, but it's like a small world. It really comes down to. I mean,
Right.
a lot of us who have been in the industry for a while, doing whatever we do, PR or chefs, having restaurants. Like, we've gone to the same events. We've kind of like seen each other around. So it's like this community where we all kind of know each other and, I mean, support each other. I'm friends with lots of other publicists and people in the industry. And I love being part of the industry and supporting people. And I feel just really lucky to be in this world that my social and my work life are just combined into one, and my job is like hosting people at restaurants or going to food and wine events. I mean, it's not so bad.
Yeah.
I mean, PR though, I have to say, PR is not the easiest job. I mean, even reputation wise, people sometimes don't love us for whatever reason, but I only pitch things that I think make sense and work with people that I truly believe in and concepts I believe in, because I'm just not that type of person that can tell you something's great if it's not. But I think PR can be tough because we're the middleman between our client, the media, and we essentially don't have control. We don't know. I can't guarantee you that the New York Times is going to write about you, and then they're going to give you stars or something.
I think it's like one of the biggest misconceptions ever. And I talk to Larry about this all the time, which is, just because you have a PR company that's super well known doesn't mean that you're going to win shit at all whatsoever. Like any chef or restaurateur that goes into that realm thinking like, I have this PR company, so for sure we're going to get it like a beer nomination or whatever. It's a bunch of bullshit. Like, that is not how it works at all whatsoever. The PR company is somewhat your mouthpiece to the world. And now it depends if the world wants to hear what they're saying. And I understand that side. I totally get that side. I just think that the landscape has changed so dramatically in the world of media that it's just hard to call. Like, it's very hard to say if we're gonna get any fun. Like, Miami is it's in a weird place
with
coverage and fundamental ideology of like what food is about. The one reason I love this podcast so deeply and why we do this crazy shit every fucking week is because I want people to hear the stories of Miami food deeply and in a very real sense.
Sorry.
No, go on.
No, I was gonna.
This is Nick Jimenez, everyone. He's the producer of this podcast.
Right, the food media thing is one of the topics that I'll sometimes insert myself in and ask questions.
Go on, Nick.
What have you? I wonder from your perspective, Shari, how much of it is, because I think that I have a somewhat less gloomy view of the changes in the media landscape than Mike does, where I wonder how much of it is that there's been a change and how much of it is that there's all these added layers of media and added media, like media in the sense of that there is social media. And so it where maybe like there was a time where in LA a Jonathan Gold had a virtual monopoly on what people consumed about food, maybe that person's audience hasn't gotten any smaller. It's just that he's surrounded by people with much bigger audiences because they're producing things that are much easier to consume and move through, who didn't have somebody feeling that need for them before, right? Like I think of Mike and some other people who listen to the podcast know, like, I consume an unhealthy amount of YouTube and
it's unhealthy
and all of these things.
Yeah, it's unhealthy.
But there are things that out there that I think have a very healthy audience, healthy size audience, that just aren't household names, like your Jonathan Weissmans and your Sonny What's-His-Face, who does Best Ever Food Review Show. Like, I would put the things that Best Ever Food Review Show does up against anything that has been done in like travel food TV in the last like 20, 30 years. I think it's brilliant.
I mean, travel food TV is Anthony Bourdain's realm when he was alive.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, I would say Bourdain. I would put best ever food review show up against anything Bourdain ever did on TV. And in terms of like the quality and the value and the depth that it gets into.
That's cool.
But it's in a sea of content where like it, in terms of market share, it will never achieve what Bourdain had in terms of market share because, I mean, you have all these cable networks. And then on top of that, fast forward a few years beyond cable, you have just you can live in this media silo where you're never exposed to things. So anyway, my question is, from your perspective, how much of it is that there's been this sort of fundamental change that's just this sort of dark cloud hanging over all these things? And how much of it is that those things that have the value of that depth just no longer account for the same sort of mammoth share of people's of audience market share?
Yeah, well,
That was deep.
very deep.
Right. To put it more simply, right? Like,
Said very deep.
like maybe for every one viewer a Bourdain or every one reader a Gold had back then, there were 10 people who just didn't have Instagram, and they were never going to be Gold or Bourdain's audience. Now the Golds and Bourdains still have their audience, but there are these other things that are consumable by multiples of millions of that, like orders of magnitude bigger, that were never going to be the audience for that stuff to begin with.
Yeah, well, maybe it's because, like, you say, okay, fine dining, I don't think people say fine dining's dead. Like, fine dining's never going to die. Like, fine dining's here, people can say that. I don't think real journalism and long-form journalism and, like, great journalists who share stories and like a Jonathan Gold or someone who's, like, I mean, he had his own way of covering Los Angeles restaurants and discovering all these gems and really, open people's eyes into the LA dining scene. For a long time, LA was not thought of as like an amazing destination restaurant city. And I mean, today, it's incredible. But I think there'll always be a need and an audience for journalists. Like, I just think, but I guess to your point, I mean, there's a lot of information out there, and there's a lot of outlets, and even with journalists, because media dollars, unfortunately, media, publications aren't, sometimes fold and have to let go of staff, and it's hard to be a journalist. I have so much respect for especially freelance writers. Like, it's a hustle. And they're so passionate about it, covering places. But I think, but there's all these outlets, like journalists there's a lot of people have started their own Substack. So I
was just about to say, like, being a freelancer suddenly it feels like it's moving into that space of like, that's the goal.
Start your own Substack, which is challenging in the sense of subscribing as not even like an industry person, but let's say a consumer who wants to read all these people. They're all in their own outlet. So some of them offer some free content, and then there's like paid subscription, like where you get bonuses and stuff. But like,
that's patreon.com/DADE.
Ads at
dademan.com. There you go. So I think it's a lot to take in as a consumer as to where you're going to get all your information. You can also get lost on these platforms. I mean, speaking of Instagram, you could just, you start watching stories and scrolling, and it's like, next thing you know, or YouTube, which I don't really, I haven't I've watched it, but I don't dive into YouTube. I don't think like you, but I'm on Instagram every day. I have 3 accounts, one personal, one from my business, one for my podcast. And it's I think it's important place to be, but it also could be all time consuming. But also, interestingly, because I was just coming from the Burger Bash at Sobe Wine and Food Festival.
The Burger Bash, Sobe Food and Wine Festival.
But I met I met someone who was an influencer, a publicist who I was talking to, introduced us, and our way of exchanging information was, let me follow you on Instagram.
Oh, man.
That's the new business card. So, I mean, and it's not the first time I've had that situation. So,
I mean, I feel like that's, who was the Instagrammer?
now I'm blanking on her
Come
name.
on.
No, she was based in New York, and she did social media for the Food Network, I believe. Like she was in house for someone.
Yeah, it's bigger than anyone I would know. It's fine. Food Network is.
I like how for this topic. I like how for this topic you got real close. To the
I know. Food Network is nothing that I know about. So,
but I don't know if I answered your question. But also, if you're talking about food, like TV, I mean, we could talk about Top Chef, or we could talk about these shows that have changed the landscape as well.
Changed them for the better, the worse. How have they changed the landscape in your mind?
Well, for the better, for being exposure to the industry, or to what it takes to be a chef, or to cook, to be a chef, the people's learning, education about food, knowledge. I mean, I think you could, I would guess, maybe be able to speak to the fact that people probably come into your restaurants now know a lot more than they did before.
I think the understanding of food has definitely changed, and it is much, much improved. I think that the amount that the Food Network has done well, it has also done poorly. I think that they're doing okay. I think that I don't know. There's just a lot of the real world of being a chef is super deep, and the Food Network doesn't dive into the depth of what that really takes, which I understand, right?
Yeah.
That's not the person that they're kind of striving to have watch their shows.
But I think the question is, to the extent that there is a funnel that leads people to that depth, does the Food Network represent a widening of the funnel, right? Is it one more avenue through which someone eventually might end up at the level of depth that you'd like to see?
Maybe. I think the question, I think the answer is maybe.
In the same way that maybe Pimp My Ride turned some people into real car guys, 5, 10, 15 years down their car journey, maybe Food Network is the exhibit of the food world.
I don't know. Real car dudes, I think real car, choppers that understand, what it takes to, break down a car are, very similar to real chefs. So...
Yeah. Well,
yes and no. I don't know. The question, I need more time to digest it and answer it, because do I think the Food Network has done okay? Yes. Do I think that people who watch the Food Network understand what it takes to do what we do for a living? No.
yeah.
Do I think that a show like The Bear, shockingly enough, has helped more than the Food Network? Probably. A movie like Burnt also has helped.
But maybe the demand for The Bear doesn't exist absent the Food Network.
That's
my point.
I'm not discrediting that point at all whatsoever. I don't totally think. I mean, does David Chang exist without the Food Network?
I think it's less.
You don't wait.
As a media personality.
You don't think David Chang exists without the Food Network?
I don't think David Chang has a successful podcast without the.
I don't care about his podcast. I've never listened to that. I'm talking about his restaurants.
Sure. Well, no, I don't know about David Chang in particular, but I can see how someone being exposed to the Food Network when they're 12 years old.
Sure.
That might lead them to start cooking, and then by the time they're coming into college age and beyond, maybe that person becomes a chef. That's what I meant by the Pimp My Ride analogy, right? Maybe you're in middle school, and this makes cars cool to you, so that however long down the road, it has that impact, or it makes you a food enthusiast, a fine dining consumer. Maybe that's what it does.
It changed the landscape, and I think, Top Chef, I think, did a tremendous amount of changing the landscape of the restaurant industry too, even though I will, well,
No,
you
go
have a
on.
thought. I mean, I think that the thing though with TV or chefs is that sometimes it looks glamorous maybe to be a chef, or that it's easy, or that it's I think the reality of what it takes to be a chef and restaurateur, it's very hard. And I think sometimes when you're looking at the stuff on TV, that you think it's you're gonna do it and you're gonna easy and become famous or something, and
Right.
that's like not.
It's not realistic.
No, it's not, and I think I know it's hard, and I think chefs, I mean, with my book talking to chefs, everyone consistently, and I knew this before, says it's you got to do it because you're passionate about it,
Right.
and it's not hard. It's not like, so I think sometimes the TV might give the impression that you're going to go in the show and then you're going to open a restaurant and you're going to make lots of money, and it's just it's a hard business. So
Yeah, I mean, I think that like this like weird juxtaposition that we're in right now is like there's lots of food content, and then there's lots of restaurants also. I think that there's very few places that bridge the gap between, yeah, I cook, I open a restaurant, how hard the in-between part is, the human nature part of it, the financial part of it. Like, I mean, there's layers to it. Those things. And then also, like, if you want to do, like, really cool food and really great food that could change the envelope. Like Chef Manny. Chef Manny, that's Chef Manny right there.
hi, Chef
Everyone
Manny.
Wave to Chef Manny. Yeah. And really change kind of like perspective on food. That's a whole different world. And I think, maybe it's just because like you get a little like more with age and time in the industry, you just kind of like get a little more jaded with like the glitz and like glamour part of it. And it's like, like we just really care about like really great food at its fundamental point. All the other stuff becomes fodder and it doesn't really matter. Can we still make it by just cooking great food in a great location with great service? And I don't know if you can anymore.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Would you do, or have you done food TV? Like, would you, if
I-
Top Chef came to you and said, hey,
They've come to me before and
okay,
I said no.
okay,
Yeah.
so no.
Yeah, I haven't, what I was going to say when you said that, I think Top Chef, the first 5 seasons were great. They had some like really, like the Voltaggio brothers were great. They had some really amazing people on those shows. It just becomes like, I feel like I'm watching The Real World, right?
Yes.
On MTV all over again. And that's not what I'm into this for. I'm into this for like the substance. I'm into this for the reality of what food provides for a person on a daily basis.
But you've done some other food TV when you were able to kind of do it on your terms.
Like, well, I did.
Hey, you didn't do competitions, but you did.
No,
food
wait,
TV.
I did Ludacris Can't Cook.
Luda.
But I
can't-
mean, come
I
on.
missed
like,
that.
I mean, I don't even know if that show aired, but it was the fact that I can cook with a guy that I've been listening to his music my entire life, and I love him very deeply.
and the Hulu thing, the Noche
Yeah,
Buena.
I did the thing with Padma Lashke, which I thought was incredible, and I thought she was great, and I thought that show had a lot of substance.
Yeah.
But even in that show, there was things about that show, because it had a lot to do with like the Cuban culture, and we were talking about holidays and whatever, and things that we fundamentally disagreed on, and things that I told them that like I wouldn't do, and because it's okay, like I don't need to do that show. Like I'm totally content cooking my food in my restaurants and doing what we do. If it's not on TV, it's okay. If we're going to be on TV, it's going to be the way that we think it should be perceived. And I think fundamentally, like, that's where the food part comes. It becomes a little foggy because they're trying to tell their story, when really, if you're coming to us, it's because you want to understand our story. And, you know, that's why I love guys like Bourdain and, you know, Jonathan Gold, because they wanted to tell other people's stories and respect them so deeply. And, you know, like, there's a lot of value in that. And did I do any other TV shows?
Other than some local stuff, I don't know.
I don't know if that show on CNN ever was.
Oh, I remember you shot a thing. I don't remember.
Right
ever
at the
seeing
corner with Carlton McCoy, and it was supposed to be like CNN's like new version of trying to do like a Bourdain-ish style show. I don't know if it ever aired or not. I don't think it ever did.
I don't remember ever seeing anybody put a thing about it.
Yeah,
they might have been editing your face and decided, forget this. This is too much of this guy.
What a great producer.
How did you guys meet? How long have you known each other? Seems like... Is am I taking over the show?
No, you can. It's totally good. That's essentially...
No. How did we met through a mutual friend, Mike Ortiz.
He's actually in
China.
He's there now.
Saw his photos of duck in Shenzhen.
I tried to call him the other day. He's like, I'm in China. I said, okay, got it.
So Mike Ortiz owns a tea company called Jojo Tea, Jojo, plug for Jojo. And he had been doing a podcast called Tea Time with Mike and Mike. And Mike Beltrán was the second Mike there.
I was one of the mics.
So I had heard this podcast. I offered to bring my limited knowledge and equipment to this thing to make it a little better than it was.
I'm getting a refill.
Go for it. And
you need anything?
I'm good. Thank you.
So we were. I was helping to record this thing. I guess I was producing it for a little bit. And Mike Ortiz is he's a very fun, but like a very unique character. And the show was very Mike Ortiz. And I'll give you an example. So the day that always sticks in my mind is we were recording an episode where the guest was a great painter named Matt Herget, who might have also gone to Palmetto. I could be wrong.
Palmetto.
Yeah, I think he might have also been a Palmetto guy.
But
he's living in L.A. He and Mike Ortiz at one point, like we're maybe an hour and a half into this podcast, start talking about some like ancient Native American ritual where like one person puts a tube up their nose.
Did that live.
Yeah, one person puts a tube up their nose and the other one blows powdered tobacco up the person's nose.
We did that actually on the podcast.
You and I sat and watched this
debacle.
debacle.
No, I didn't do it.
And so the moment that sticks out in my mind that I think leads directly to Pan Con Podcast is Mike and I observing the two of these lunatics doing this. And it wasn't a video podcast. This was an audio thing. So you're just hearing audio of somebody going, like blowing tobacco up someone's nose. And
I did ask this question. Okay.
Yeah. and so then eventually Mike Ortiz he gets the opportunity to do a pop-up in New York. He's away for the better part of a year. And so Mike and I sort of take this opportunity to say, like, what if we did a podcast that was a little bit more our speed? And so this new debacle is that podcast.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
We have entered the new debacle to 100 plus episodes.
And that was like mid
Congratulations.
that was like mid 2019, and a lot of people are surprised that we barely knew each other when we started doing
we did
this.
barely know each other.
Yeah. So
now you're like besties.
Well,
I don't know. I don't like him that much.
Yeah, he's okay. He pours. I don't have to pay for this. Right.
There you go.
But no, I think the fact that we continue to do the podcast through COVID, so by law, we were unable to see people that we liked better than each other, and so we ended up
and that's how we're here,
forced to spend time together for a whole lot of time.
So tell me, I mean, in the PR space for 20 years, industry for 30 years, what led you to this?
So, as I said, like my whole career hasn't been planned, but almost when I got the opportunity to do this book, it was like it was sort of like I almost did prep myself for it without knowing I was prepping myself for it. So I'll just back up and say, and at the 10-year mark of my PR company, I came up with the idea to do a podcast all in the industry, and it's on behind the scenes talent and hospitality. And that came from the idea of just doing PR for many years and knowing lots of people in the industry who did different things than what I did, whether they designed restaurants or they did cocktail programs or other publicists. So I started doing my podcast, and I've been at it now 10 years, which is crazy.
Amen to you.
Yeah, I know. And I know how much work goes into this. I mean,
it's crazy.
It's a lot.
Nick does all the work. I just show up.
Nick is fabulous. And you're fabulous too.
Thank you.
And yeah, I love doing it. I love talking to people. I love hearing their stories. And I've been working for myself. My PR company never grew into a big agency. Basically a one-woman show that does all the work and likes having the relationships. And so between doing my podcast and doing PR and being single and loving restaurants and travel, I started traveling more. And this is probably like a dozen years ago. And always my travels revolved around restaurants and going to restaurants because it was my interest. And being that I traveled a lot solo, I don't know, people think solo dining or solo travel is like lonely or sad.
It's the best.
And it's really amazing.
It's incredible.
And I've, over the years, met so many people through just traveling and dining out. So fast forward to, I guess, 2020, 21, I started thinking about doing a book, and I started talking to Phaidon, an editor there, who I knew about some book ideas. And Chefwise actually was Phaidon's idea. Associate publisher there, Amelia Taragni, who's been with the company a long time, she wanted to do a chef advice book. And my contact there, Emily Takudis, knew Amelia wanted to do.
Emily is great.
You know Emily?
Yeah.
Yeah, so she does most, everyone, I mean, when people know that find out I did a book with Phaidon, they assume Emily is my editor because she does most all the books in the food division in the New York Chefs. Emily was not my editor, but she's the reason I have a book, because Emily knew a bit about my background. She knew about my travels. She knew I had relationships with chefs and my passion for the industry. So Emily put two and two together and connected me with Amelia and said, Shari might be a great person to do this book. And so that's how it came about. This was 2021, and Amelia's was either in London or in Italy, and we did some Zoom calls, and I immediately got the idea for the book of a chef advice book with chefs around the world, not with recipes, not with photos, but just real advice. And I outlined the chapters, and I got a book deal without an agent.
Congrats.
With Phaidon.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, yeah. So, and it was like a dream. It was a dream project for me because I love restaurants, I love chefs, and I love the industry. And here the job of putting the book together was reaching out to leading chefs who I respected around the world and asking them to be a part of my book.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm reaching out to Massimo Bottura and Dominique Crenn and Julian Roer. And I mean, I went to Singapore on a trip by myself, Hong Kong and Singapore, and I ended up having New Year's at this restaurant, Odette, and celebrating with the team and meeting the chef, Julian. And when I signed up to do this book, also I committed to doing a book with over 100 chefs around the world. And then I was like, I hope I can get 100 chefs around the world to be a part of this. And he was one of the first people I reached out to, because I was like, all right, I know a lot of people in New York and the U.S., but let me see if I can get people really around the world to be a part of it. And he immediately said yes. And chefs were eager to share their advice.
Well, I think like real chefs are eager to share their advice. I think they want to share their knowledge. They want to share with the world, like, difficulties, triumphs, like all those things. I think it's like I think it's very important for them, like, because they don't, a lot of times I would feel like they don't have like a super strong mouthpiece, like they don't have people that are like the champion for the things that they believe in. So they want to talk about like the advice part. I feel that. I think it's incredibly important for like the next generation, and I think it's important for people to understand. So I totally think that 100 Chefs was like easy.
I ended up with 117. Probably, but I mean, I could have, I put together a long list of chefs, and then I started outreach, and I couldn't. Yeah, there's a lot. I'm very proud of the chefs in the book, and I think I tried to have a diverse list and representing different types of cuisines, and not only just having fine dining or white tablecloth tasting many restaurants, but having some fast casual and a mix. Right. But yeah, there's certainly, I think if I had more time, the book could have been like 1,000 chefs, or it could have been more. But I'm like, I mean, this book is like, I know it's my book, but I look at this thing and I open it up and I'm like, there's so much advice in this book. There's 14 chapters, and it's like business, sourcing, technology, work-life balance, and that probably, if I was doing this book 10 years ago, 15 years ago, probably would not have been a chapter. Like, no one talked about that back in the day. No one talked about that when I worked at Trotter's. Charlie, I'm doing a book, and I have a chapter on work-life balance, yeah. But people had a lot to say about that now.
What was one of the things in the book that stands out to you that you think impacted you the most?
That's a good question. I think that
I finally got one.
Finally one.
I finally got one.
How long into this show have we been?
2 years, 3 years. We finally got one. Fuck! I'm pumped. We did it. We did it.
Now I have to answer it, huh? I think for me, the consistency of answers, like the fact that a chef in Sydney, Australia, and a chef in Dubai, and a chef in Los Angeles ask about teamwork, or ask about sourcing, or ask about technology, and like, even though everyone's answers are in their own voice and individual, there was a consistency in it with the importance of teamwork, or the importance of leadership and mentorship. And I think I found that really comforting or cool, that there was like kind of almost like a universal language of chefs, even though not everyone, every opinion agrees with every opinion in the book, but there was definitely consistent messaging. And I mentioned this earlier, like that it's hard, how hard it is to be a chef and run a restaurant, and you have to do it because you're passionate about it. And there's a lot other jobs you could do that are probably easier, will be rewarding with a paycheck, but that's not why you get into this industry. And also, I think just the point that I think sometimes people look at these big name chefs now, these star chefs who are, on TV or just Michelin starred this, or, like your Massimo Botturas, like who are I went to Chile, and Rodolfo Guzman's in my book, and he has Barrago, and it's amazing, most hospitable, wonderful person, amazing restaurant. Like, and I've interviewed him on my show too. He talks about how like the restaurant almost didn't make it, and then he got a break. He got on Latin America's 50 Best list, or like, but it was like so many chefs talk about the struggle it is to be but you do it for the passion, and then you keep at it, you work hard, and it can be rewarding and successful. But I think sometimes, maybe that even ties into the TV conversation, that it's not like you just like decide to be a chef and like you're just going to be ultra successful without working hard, and also maybe with a little bit of timing and luck and all that, and being passionate.
Yeah, it's interesting, the idea of like there's a lot of struggle you have that like one small break that could probably make you or not make you. And I think that happens for a lot of people. And I think like even the most successful people, it happens for them. And the world of a chef is kind of a similar but different because of your surroundings, but it's like the same kind of struggle because you give so many fucks about what you do. It's so deep. Wherever you are in the world, you care so much about your food, about the product, about the team. Like, it doesn't matter where you are in the world, like all those things really matter. And like the nurturing of the team, the idea of like where the product comes from and why it comes from there, and it's just, I think it's very like deep in all great cooks. Not even talking about chefs, just like all great cooks. Like it really, really matters. Like they just care so much, and it's a beautiful thing. So I think that like the reason why like I think a chef advice book would do so well is because they have so much advice to give because they've struggled so hard. Like they feel it so deep. They want other people to maybe not struggle. They want other people to like, if you could maybe skip this misstep that I may have had, or like it would be great if you just skip that one, understand this is going to be hard. I think a lot of chefs are very similar in that standpoint. So that's why like 100, it could have been 1,000.
Could be easily. A volume 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's and chefs. I was very thankful or happy. I mean, that chefs really shared their truth and were trusted me in that to really open up and talk about failures or talk about.
What was the darkest truth?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I think it goes. I think it goes back to like these stories, even like a Rodolfo being like the struggle of being like, I really thought we, I didn't know what I was going to do. I wasn't going to make it. And like overcoming that. But yeah, I think overall it's a lot of, positive messaging the book is for young aspiring cooks or people in the industry, but I think the book is also for anyone. They don't necessarily have to be in the culinary hospitality world. I think there's a lot of inspiration in this book of just like life lessons of or being a business person, right? Because a lot of the chefs in the book are restaurateurs. It's coming from that perspective of not only being a cook. But what's your top advice for an aspiring cook?
Get a job early. Do the dirty ones. Talk to me after.
Okay.
I mean, it's the reality is like TV has given a lot of people like a false ideal of like what it takes to do what we do. Clean the fryer, peel the potato, talk to me after. Tell me what it feels like after. Do you still feel fulfilled? Do you still feel like is there still that like sparkle in your eye about like food? If there is, then that's cool. I appreciate that. I come from that. So I'd much rather give people like a realistic, honest understanding of what it takes to do this than give them like a bunch of smoke and mirrors. I want to be honest, and for me personally, like I'm incredibly blessed. I love what I do, and every single day I tell all my cooks like I'm super hard on you because I love what I do for a living, and I think that you can be better than you are today, tomorrow. Do you think you can be better today or tomorrow than you were today? And like it doesn't matter. in whichever aspect, whether it's a fine dining restaurant or a diner, which I was at for fucking all day today, like, it doesn't matter where you're at. Do you think you can be better tomorrow than you were today? And it's like, if you could be 1% better tomorrow, then you have improved. And that's all it really takes. And I think if you really love food deeply and you want to make a difference, that's really what it takes, you know? The passion portion of food, it's like overwhelming and super deep, because you want to affect people's lives and you want them to understand your story, and that's like a very deep connection, and not like that connection happens with like 15% out of 100. So if you understand that point and you understand that, like, the story you're trying to tell maybe can only hit 15 to 20% of people, that's cool if you're okay with that. But those 20% of people will talk to another 20% of people, and the trickle keeps happening. So I don't know, it's I'm a big like advice person, only because I've me personally, I've failed a ton. People only see the wins, but like the failures are 100 times deeper than the wins, you know? So,
Yeah.
Did you in putting together all the advice in the book, I'm sure there were things that, like, a lot of chefs share certain experiences, and so there are things that you must have heard over and over and over again. Did you find that there was any one person or maybe a topic, or where, I guess the question would be, was there somebody who you found to be an especially sort of like heterodox, against the grain thinker, just sort of existed on a planet apart from everybody else you spoke to, whether on a particular topic or just broadly, like this person thinks in a way and sees the thing through a lens that nobody shares with them?
I mean, I wish I had a good example of that, like one outlier or something. I mean, I think the way when I put the book together was I had initially started with 12 chapters and ended up with 14, but I had topics, and then when reaching out to the chefs, I didn't give them all the same questions to answer, so to have diverse answers. So, and I left it to the chefs how much they wanted to contribute, and and left the answers in their own voice. And so some chefs are in multiple chapters. Some contributed 100 words, some 1,000. Some sent me like little half-written sentences and said, kind of clean this up. And some like had PDFs that were perfectly, ready to go to manuscript. So, and some people did voice memos. Sometimes I did not YouTube. I did WhatsApp interviews. I mean, I interviewed Gagan Anand at like 11:30 p.m. New York time, because the guy's traveling around the world nonstop. And so anyways, I was getting my answers in all different ways. And so, but I think when they came in, again, there was a consistency, and I don't know if anyone like stood out in the sense of being like, I wasn't like shocked maybe by their answer. But I guess maybe the funniest or interesting answer I got was Enrique Olvera in
a legend
from LA, from Pujol in Mexico City. And yeah, I know one of the responses in the book says, basically says, don't take any advice. I'm like, it's an advice book, and he's saying don't take any. So,
I mean, I get that, right?
Yeah,
I get that.
So no one else said that.
There you go.
I mean, I get that. Like, you're gonna write your own story. I mean, everyone's story is very different. So
yeah, and then it was kind of cool because I have a few pastry chefs in the book, but not a lot. But I have Claudia Fleming's in the book, and she worked with Tom Colicchio, who's also in the book, and in the mentorship leadership chapter, she actually like calls out Tom as being someone who she learned a lot from, and really values that relationship in helping her career. So that was kind of
Love
fun.
That. It's good.
Yeah,
A little bit of a follow-up. I think we've talked a lot about advice that you would take or get or give if you're in the industry. What do you imagine the experience would be of the book would be like to somebody who's not in the industry? Because I had nothing to do with this thing until I sort of made myself a fly on the restaurant wall through this podcast. And I think that I've told Mike this a number of times. I think that one of the things that I've observed is that I think chefs and other people in the industry, because it's not just kitchen people, have a sort of inflated idea of how unique their challenges are, right? Like if you go into any industry, I think you'll find versions of some of the same stuff. So I wonder, like, if you could speak a little bit to the things somebody who's not in restaurants might take from reading through this advice from chefs.
Yeah, I mean, even there's a chapter on teamwork or just the importance of taking care of your team and being a good, that I think can apply really to anyone. I think there's a chapter on inspiration and just, where that comes from, and whether it's from travel or it's from, it could come from a bazillion places. Philosophy is a chapter on that, just how people and it's more like, it doesn't have to be in the restaurant industry, but it's more of a mindset of life. And I think there's a lot of advice on that in the book. So it's not, there is a chapter on technology when we kind of dive a little into that.
I'm bad at
part
that. I'm real bad at
that
that.
part of the business because it's become, to have a restaurant, the technology you need to, reservation systems and POS and all that stuff. But that's probably not as sexy of a chapter as inspiration. Yeah, I just think it's like on my podcast, I tip every show off with my PR tip of the week, and I've now done 370 plus episodes, which is crazy.
Wow.
And somehow every
370.
week, when I started, I was like, PR tip every show. So I keep coming up with PR tips, but a lot of them they're life lesson-y tips because it's not just straight have a good subject line for your email, which is,
or just don't copy and paste the press release.
Yeah, that's a good one. I don't even think I used that one. Thank you. See, thank you. That's the next show. But yeah, I think the book is the same way, where it's it's inspiring for anyone, and also this is a book that, well, I'll say one thing. This is my one special copy that I've been carrying around the world with me. And this is Massimo Bottura, and this got a little messed up here because I went to the world's 50 best. This is for Helio Martinez, and I'm getting all the chefs to sign this. So it's very special, and it's the type of book though that you could just pick it up and read a quote and put it down, and digest that. You definitely don't have to read this book cover to cover. It's probably more even recommended not to, and just kind of read some advice or look up one of the chefs in the book. Actually, I've got a local Miami in the book. José Mendín is in the book.
Man.
Pub Belly.
God. I love that man so deeply.
Gets a lot of shout outs here.
I can't even talk, I get blushy when I talk about Jose because he's an older brother. I love that man so deeply. He's such a beautiful guy.
Can you so he's in the book?
He's in the book.
Can you read his quote in the José Mendín voice?
I want to know his quote because I want
you to read it as Jose.
I want to do the quote as Jose.
I have to find. I don't know.
That's all right. We got that.
Yeah, no, we got. We'll edit this part out. Chat GPT or whatever.
I'm looking.
ChatGPT will edit it out.
179, 191, 305. There it is.
Is he on page 305?
That was on purpose.
That's good.
He was on page 305.
That's good.
I really wish it was.
I want whatever that is. I want whatever that is.
Here's the 305.
Why are there no page numbers on here? What's happening?
They are down here.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, no, Jose is a rock star.
You have no idea.
I have no idea, but we're going to see what he had to say.
I'm going to read page 305 by José Mendín.
Woohoo!
Here we go.
I just want to do it like José Mendín talk.
Do it.
I can't. He's like a brother, so I feel bad. You've
done it before.
When he leans back and he talks like this, It's usually after like too many drinks. Make sure you have all the areas of the business covered before you even start planning it. You only get one chance to do it, and if you fail, it will be hard to bounce back from it. José Mendín in Chefwise. Yes, Chef, you are absolutely fucking correct, and I amen to that, sir. Yeah.
So much amazing advice in this book. Only available wherever books are sold.
There you go. We'll put a link to the book on Amazon in all of the video description and the podcast page, episode page. And,
Thank you. I'm
and
doing
all that stuff.
It's tomorrow, so I think the show's gonna air after.
Nice.
But I'm doing a book signing at Books and Books down the road.
Oh,
Which
cool.
one? The one here
The
in
one
Grove?
here in Coconut
Oh,
Grove.
man, the Grove
Very cool.
Books and Books is
Yeah.
great.
Nice.
I'm a huge supporter of Books and Books. We buy books from them probably every month.
We should get Mitchell on here. I don't know him personally, but Books and Books owner.
Yeah,
Cool.
I listened to that.
I support that.
Yeah. Cool.
I think it's time for the wind downs.
Time for the wind down. So this is where we do our parting recommendations.
Man,
which,
parting
Sherry,
recommendations are
you know a little
deep
bit
right
about
now.
this. You can recommend anything you want as long as it's not yours, because we'll do shameless plugs a little later.
Right.
It could be it could be a book, place you went, a meal you ate, movie you saw,
And it could be as ratchet as you want. It
anything
could be
whatsoever that you want to
super
recommend to
fancy
people.
if you want it to be.
Do you want to go first, or do you want to let us recommend things and give yourself some time to think about it? Maybe you came prepared. I don't know.
I don't know if I came prepared, but I mean, always I'm ready. Well, I don't know.
Wow. She said she's ready.
I'm ready.
Most of our
I
guests
love
are
that.
not ready.
That's
for
Well,
it.
I thought maybe. I mean, I'd like to. I mentioned this to you before we were on air that I did an interview today with Val Chang
Oh,
of
what a
Ida
legend.
May Maddie's B-side.
Prima. I love
And
you
I'm a
deeply.
Big fan of hers.
Same.
I had gone to the first time to Ida May when it was at the St. Roche's Market, which then became Mia Market.
Not the same anymore.
And I discovered it. Like, I didn't know. I just picked a place, and I remember I had this amazing salmon ceviche. It was, like, unbelievable. So I was honored to have the opportunity to interview her today, and I'm a big fan of all of her places. And just to tie into my show a little bit, I always ask my guests to ask a question for my next guest, and I wasn't sure if I should be asking her to ask you a question, but I decided to. So,
Okay.
so her question, she asked you a question.
All
So her question is, what is your vision for your hospitality group? Where do you want to go? Where do you want to take it? What do you want to be known for? What's your legacy? And
All right, Val.
when are you marrying Rachel?
Jeez.
Sorry if I'm putting you on the spot, but I'm plugging her. But yeah, she.
So,
no.
of course, Val would ask all these questions because I feel like we've had all these conversations so many deeply, like so many times. As a hospitality group, what is it that we want to do, and what is our goal overall? Our goal overall is to continue to be a part of the Miami landscape when it comes to food, be fundamentally part of what matters, continue to push the conversation of what Cuban food means, and, you know, like the progress of Cuban food that has been dead for 60 years, and show that this food that has been dead for so many years can be creative, can be different, can be fancy or fine dining, if you will. As a company, our goal is to have really great people and treat them well and make them feel empowered and part of a thing that matters. You know, I mean, 8 years is a long time. I feel like it's the longest job I've ever had. I feel like the first 8 years have been a struggle. They've been deep. They've been hard. They've been dark. They've been great. They've been with every like valley, there has been a peak, and with that peak has been a struggle. And I think that we will continue to go through that. And I think as long as you approach that with an honest and real perspective, I feel like we can be a hospitality group that's here for a long time. So, what would I say? What I would say to my very dear Val would be that we just want to be a part of the landscape with people like her and people like her brother and like her dad that are continuing to change the narrative of what Miami food is really about, and continuing to change what people think of us all over the country and all over the world, by just doing what we do and loving what we do deeply. What we do internally is very important and very real and very hard, but it's something that we care about very deeply, both sides. That's what I would say.
Thank you for answering that, and I love it. And I mean, I'm just very honored and happy to be here today and have this time to chat with you. And I need to check out all of your restaurants because I haven't been to them all, and it's quite impressive, the company you've built in the past 8 years. So
It's exhausting. That's what it is.
no, but I mean, as I said, like, I know it's a hard industry, and you're obviously passionate about it, and you're obviously, you know, you're building it, and you're in it, you're doing the work, and
Yeah.
I wish you much success. So my
Thank you.
plug is for you.
I appreciate that.
Did you have any other things you wanted to recommend? There's no limit to how many things you can recommend. Some
All
people,
right, I'm good for now. If
Okay.
something comes to me while you
Okay.
guys are giving yours, but I feel I've
Just Cameron, just throw it out. It's fine. Just throw it out. You guys are good. Come
I
on,
guess
bro.
I do. I mean, I'm excited about the Miami dining scene and how it's, you know, it's changed or progressed, or it's exciting, and it's
I think
it's nice to
Miami
come
Miami
home.
throws bows with everyone in the country. And I know that's like a very Miami person way to say that, but like we don't fuck around. And I think that the food here is like incredibly great. I think the hospitality has improved. I think that the service still needs to be worked on. I think that, like, from a food perspective, there's a lot of people that really give a fuck, that really care super deeply, and they're going to continue to push super hard.
Yeah.
That's my thought about Miami food. Whatever.
parting recommendations?
Invasion, the show on Apple TV. I'm a big sci-fi dork, so like Invasion was great. I'm pumped for the next season because it was renewed for another season, and they left too many like subplots not solved. So that's my thing.
Okay.
Hawksworth, the cookbook, I just purchased. I very much like it. I think it shows a lot of range. It kind of reminds me of Sean Brock's first book when it comes to like range. Like you could do everything from like fried chicken to like super fancy food. I thought it was good. I haven't cooked.
Sean's in Chefwise.
I mean, Sean is, he should be in Chefwise.
Yeah,
He's lived quite a life.
Yeah, he's amazing.
So I like that book from several layers. I haven't cooked anything out of that book, but I think the thought process, I think his, his time on the job, I think so many things are good about that book. I enjoyed it. Also like the flavor profiles and like really fucking around with like things that shouldn't make sense that do make sense. I love that. It's very like similar to like Joe Beef, like, Dave McMillan and Fred, when they were together, they made a lot of things make sense that didn't totally make sense. So I love that. The book is cool. Food-wise, what I've eaten lately is probably nothing. been working quite a bit, so the last thing I ate was the ghost pepper chicken sandwich from Wendy's, and it was not so bad.
Okay.
It was not so bad. Not so bad.
Not so bad.
With a little honey mustard, I enjoyed it, and it was great.
I think our last episode that we recorded, you recommended the chicken enchilada burrito at Taco Bell. You were thrilled with that.
It was, I mean, for Taco Bell, like, honestly,
Yeah.
it's incredibly consistent and very good.
Nice.
I mean, and they've let me down so hard with the Crunchwrap Supreme, so, like...
Right, you have to find somewhere else
Right.
Yeah.
I agree.
I have 3 recommendations. One, I've mentioned this guy numerous times on the podcast.
Here we go.
Brian Jordan Alvarez put out another banger as TJ Maxx.
Did he?
It's called Comments. And it's
God.
all about the comments you've been leaving on his Instagram content.
I love that.
Brian Jordan Alvarez is he's an actor who has, I think he was like on Time's most influential people list. This last one they put out pretty recently.
Was he?
Yeah.
No way.
Crazy. It's crazy.
Wow, that's crazy.
So I've talked about it too much to go into the whole thing here, but he is hysterical, and what he's done is you know like those filters that you might use on Instagram or TikTok that like alter your face.
Yeah.
He uses those all the time, but then each of the filters corresponds to this character he's built. So then, like, if you're
the
scrolling,
characters are so good.
if you're scrolling through his TikTok or his Instagram, he's built this like little cinematic universe, and one of the characters has become a pop star, and he's putting out music that's like actually like super catchy and has really caught on. So Brian Jordan Alvarez, his new song "Comments" is a thing I'm recommending. Also, you might have seen Mr. and Mrs. Smith, the Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie movie a while back.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a reimagining of that with Donald Glover and I forget her name, last name Eskine, series that there's one season out on Amazon. I thought it was a million times better. It was like a much more like fun, imaginative. It's the arc of the story is it starts with them interviewing for a job at this like sort of vague spy company, and then they don't realize until the very last stage that they're interviewing to be paired with a fake spouse. And so it's really more of a relationship story where they're going through all of the stages of a typical relationship story, but as spies. So like lots of things are blowing up and people are getting murdered, but it's like more meet cute rom-com and then people are dead. So a very fun approach to that whole thing. And then let me just so we're not doing an awkward transition, let me wait until he gets back. Anyway, so I was just recommending Mr. and Mrs. Smith, which I mentioned to you in the text was very good.
I almost started watching that.
Yeah, it's very, very good.
Actually, I have another for anyone that's in Miami. So, Burger Beast.
Yeah.
He's a very controversial person.
Is he?
I mean, like Burger Beast has a lot of opinions.
Okay.
Which I support a lot of his opinions. But man, that guy's burger pop-up twice a month, his burgers are fucking delicious. Fucking A. Like I'm not a burger person at all. Like I do not pine for burgers ever. I'm not ever like I want to eat a burger.
Red meat in general, not your thing.
Yeah, just like not really my thing. But his fucking burgers are fucking delicious.
Yeah.
I want to try it.
They're at Mojo, yeah?
This Saturday,
Mojo
they
Donuts?
are there. Mojo. I mean, I've gone probably like 6 times in the last. I mean, too
Are you
many
familiar
times.
with Burger Beast at all?
I know. Yes, I know of him. I've been to the website, but I don't follow it as closely as maybe other
And
people.
he wrote that book, The Burger. Is it all about the burger? Or
Yeah.
He wrote a burger book.
So interesting though that you brought this up for me for the fact that I did this interview with Val today, and on my show I always talk about a solo dining experience, and my solo dining experience on this show was about burgers. I talked about Gotham Burger Social Club, which is have you ever had that Mike Puma's pop up that
No,
he now
but
has
I've heard about it.
Yeah, amazing, and he just opened in the Lower East Side like a real restaurant there, and I went the other day, and it's delicious. And we have another burger spot I also went to solo, which George Mott's opened, called Hamburger America.
Yeah, George Mott's and like Burger Beast are
Yeah.
like
They rivals?
Well,
they're not rivals.
he's
They're
writ-
just, you know.
He's written about
Yeah.
some films, like he knows burgers, so it's interesting. So and he opened over on McDougal Street in Houston about 2 months ago. So we have both these guys who were like, well, I don't know if George I think started doing a burger in the pandemic, that he was
I
and he
believe
was
so.
I think from what I remember, he created like a slide or something out his windows, like shooting, because of the pandemic, like people ordering it is like shooting the burgers down. But yeah, I don't know if he ever thought he was going to have his own place, but they both open. They're both great burgers. I mean, they're both like smash type burgers, but yeah, it's interesting you brought that up.
Are you like a burger fan?
I like burgers, but I don't want to eat them every day. I mean, I crave.
No one should want to eat them.
Well, yeah, as I said, I like.
Go across.
Well, there's cables here. That might be-
Oh, yeah. Go around, Donovan.
I like variety, and I appreciate a good burger. I am a burger person.
I'm just not like I'm not like a big red meat person. So for me to like say I love a burger, I mean all of Burger Beast burgers, I enjoyed all of them.
I'm mostly, I would say, a seafood person. Like that
Go on.
tends to be where I go with a menu if I'm on my own, seafood lover. But no, I definitely like burgers.
I'm more of like I like weird shit. Give me like offal and like give me your most. I want to know like how weird can you be?
I did go to Joe Beef once, and I didn't get it, but I remember a guy next to me. He ordered the horse meat.
No, that wasn't there the day that I would have ordered that. I
Yeah,
mean,
I got the burger there. I got what was it, the foie gras, like
Yeah.
double something. Yeah.
I mean, the meal that I had there was fucking amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
it
was
was
fucking
very
great.
indulgent.
Yeah, that's how I love to eat. I mean, whatever. I mean, we're gonna go deep. We're gonna go all the way. We're gonna go all the way.
I have one more recommendation.
Oof! Wow.
This is the one I'm the most adamant about. It caught me the most by surprise.
I'm shocked.
I started watching it last night just because I was like,
Last night,
yeah, and then
and you're adamant about it.
you
haven't digested it
No,
for
it's a
days.
movie. It's a movie. So
Okay.
yeah, it was a movie. I started watching it last night while cooking, and I finished it today while
What
cooking.
did you cook?
I was just roasting a bunch of chicken and making. It was more like a meal prep
So
sort of situation.
you were meal prepping.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Man, Nick Jimenez fucking meal preps.
Yeah, that happens.
This is good.
That happens. Okay, so you're gonna love that this is my recommendation.
Okay.
I'm telling you. Did you see the Spider-Man Spider-Verse cartoon stuff?
I did, but I haven't watched it.
Okay.
But I know what you're talking about.
Okay, it's not that, but I would put it in that category.
Okay.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem. This was so good. I'm telling you, I was, especially if you got to watch a movie with a kid. I was not watching it with a kid, and I was still enthralled. It was
Okay.
Be
Be open-minded.
Yeah.
it was written and produced by Seth Rogen and some of the other people who
Yeah.
did like Sausage Party. So like think that feel, that sense of humor. Splinter is played by Jackie Chan. Seth Rogen is the Rhino guy. He's Bebop, the Warthog. John Cena's the Rhino guy.
I actually would watch this.
Ice Cube is the villain. It's
Ice Cube.
incredible.
Not
The
Exhibit.
No.
Not
the
Exhibit.
soundtrack of this movie, it's like a kid's movie. They're clearly using the sanitized versions of these songs. But like on the soundtrack for this movie, Annie Up by M.O.P., I Know by De La Soul, No Diggity's in there, Shimmy Shimmy Ya by ODB.
I love this actually.
I went into it thinking like I'm tired of looking for something. I'm just going to put something. I cannot get enough of this movie. I want to watch it with every little kid I know. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem was easily the best cartoon I've seen in the last like 3 years.
Wow. Where is it available? Is it
On
just
Amazon.
streaming?
On
It's in
Amazon. Yeah, it was in
Amazon.
theaters last year, I think.
Amazon.
And for whatever reason, it just wasn't like, I don't know, more noise wasn't made about it. Maybe because the Spider-Verse stuff is, and this is very clearly sort of inspired by that. I think Spider-Verse gave people some permission to do these like very visual. That's the other thing. Like visually, it's very interesting. That was, I think, part of what made Spider-Verse so appealing to adults. It's like every frame is a painting, and this is a little bit similar. Like every frame is like, they're not like sort of phoning it in because it's for little kids. It's like, we want adults to watch this and to not be able to take their eyes off of it. And it's got this very sort of like handmade feel to it. Even the frame rates are dropped down a little bit, so you feel like you're watching a moving comic book. It's incredible. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem.
I think you sold it. I think you could do their
Man,
PR.
I'm going to go home and watch this right now.
Yeah,
good.
we've got to go.
I mean,
we've got
Nick
things
doesn't
to
recommend
do now.
anything this hard unless
it's been a long time.
No, he's very
Unless
passionate
it's
about
TJ
it.
Maxx.
Velocipaster. Velocipaster was the last like hard recommendation this deep. Last thing I guess we'll go into all the things, but March 10th, our Cars and Croquetas charity event. Just give us all your money. It's all going to a charity.
It's Cars and Croquetas on Instagram.
It is Cars and Croquetas on Instagram.
Which you should follow so that you're in the loop for next year.
Right. In the loop for QR codes and giving us all your money. And we're going to have a booze bar. It's going to start at 9 a.m. There's going to be a lot of old, cool cars. There's going to be a lot of fun, I think. I mean... It
Maybe,
I don't know.
maybe
it
or
might
not.
be an awful time.
It really
To be
depends.
determined.
As long as I come up with a playlist and Nick is not responsible, like it'll be a lot of fun, I think. So I feel like March 10th, if you're available on a Sunday morning at 9 a.m., come by behind Chugs. We're going to have food, fritas, Chug sliders, pastelitos, croquetas that we're doing, and also Mike from USBS is donating 150 croquetas, something like that.
Cool. If you haven't, go back and listen to the episode that we recorded with Lucy Lopez, where the two of you get a little deeper into
Heavy, just super heavy. Gosh, it was hard.
So this is it's a
It was
fundraiser
a
for
lot.
the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, and the two of you get into your family histories with cancer and why this is so personal to you, and
Right.
and all the rest of that. But personal stories aside, we were there last year. It was a good time.
It was a good time.
It's where it's you're going there. You're going there to have a good time.
Nick last year was walking around with a boombox and talking into a microphone. I feel like this year we're a little more organized. We have tents and we're renting equipment as opposed to last year. We did not do any of those things, and we still raised a good amount of money.
Yeah, it was good.
For a good cause.
I might have to come back.
There you go.
I mean, come back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
March,
New York
Miami.
is cold,
It's a nice
huh?
time of year.
Yeah.
Not too hot.
New York is cold.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There.
still winter. Get a little way to some sunshine.
There you go.
Good cause.
Hit us with the music.
Well, shameless plug time.
Oh.
So Sherry, please shamelessly
shameless
plug all
plugs.
of your stuff. Tell everybody
That's
where to find you
all
and all
I've
your
been
things.
doing for this whole. I'm used to
I
interviewing people.
I will say it was only like 10 minutes into the podcast that I realized the All in the Industry typeface or logo is a play on All in the Family, and I love that. So that's awesome. I recommend the podcast just for that reason.
Done.
Got it.
So this is when I plug all my things.
Yeah.
All your it's called All the Things.
all
That's
the things. So I'm a publicist. My company is Bayer Public Relations. My website's BayerPublicRelations.com. Instagram at BayerPR. I'm a podcast host and producer of All in the Industry, and I've allintheindustry.com, and also my Instagram is All Industry. I have a new book out called Chefwise, which is life lessons from leading chefs around the world. It's by Phaidon. It's available wherever books are sold, wherever your local bookstores, your Amazons, your wherever you, Phaidon.com as well.
All the things.
And my personal, I also have a website, ShariBayer.com, but mostly I spend my time on Instagram on my own personal account, which is Shari Bayer, at Shari Bayer, and that's ShariBayer. Bayer, and no relation to the aspirin, even though people ask me that sometimes. But that is how it's spelled. And and I post, if you follow me, you'll see a lot of food, you'll see a lot of restaurants, you'll see some sunsets and here and there, and you'll see a lot of chefs, and you'll also see some yoga. I'm a yoga person, so I throw in my yoga with the sunset pictures.
It's
like
hard,
those are
man.
really
Yoga sucks,
good ones.
man.
No,
God bless you guys.
It's good. It's good for the body. It's good for the mind.
Like I don't doubt that. It's just like I'm just not built for it, but I get it.
Yeah. No, I started. It's good. I got very into yoga, I don't know, several years ago, and so it's interesting though when I see people at events or I've seen it a while. It's like people like comment on my yoga, and I'm always like almost a little embarrassed about it. But it's like then again, I'm posting pictures of yoga on my Instagram, so I can't really say anything. But yeah, that's it. That's all I got.
I'm gonna post a yoga picture.
I love this.
Yeah, I'm gonna post a yoga picture. It's gonna be awful.
I can't wait.
It's gonna be awful. It's gonna be terrible.
Have you ever practiced? Do you practice?
Yeah. No, I don't practice now, but I have, and it's
tempted.
awful.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can't wait. I can't wait.
Yeah.
And all your listeners, I'm sure, can't wait either.
Mike,
all
shameless
25
plug.
of them. All the things.
Insert song here.
All the things. All the things. Ariete, Taurus, Elvacino. All the things. Laurel, Scapegoat, Judge, and the Gibson.
All the things.
That's so bad. That's the first time I've ever heard that. That's so good.
Fabulous.
One of our listeners has made songs so that Mike doesn't have to plug all his stuff, and he just makes songs with all the restaurant names.
That's pretty good. Man.
That's my favorite one yet.
Wow.
Really, Noah's really showcasing his vocal range there.
No, but it was good.
Yeah.
That was really good.
It was good. Yeah,
I want to listen to that over and over again.
I'll burn it on a CD for you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Shameless plugs for us. Find Phaidon Podcast on all the things, at Phaidon Podcast on the social media things, including Instagram, Twitter, all that. dademag.com/Phaidon Podcast and patreon.com/Phaidon Podcast. If things were mentioned in this episode, I don't usually mention this, but if things were mentioned in this episode, like for instance, Chefwise or some of the other stuff that we talked about, I think some cookbooks were referenced, like Hawksworth. There will be Amazon affiliate links in the video description, so we get little kickbacks.
Senor Bezos.
That's right.
I heard he was at the Coconut Grove Arts Festival.
There you go. Sure.
I don't know if it was actually him, but he was there.
Could have just been a bald man in a tight shirt, but
It's possible. There's a lot of those at the Coconut Grove Arts Festival.
Wait, fun fact. Bezos went to Palmetto, Val Victorian.
that's right.
Yeah, he's like a 1/8 Cuban.
He was adopted by a Cuban.
Okay, that makes you 1/8.
That's how that math. That's how that math works.
This could be, I could be out of line for this, but I'm
Oh,
very
this
comfortable.
is
I'm very
great. Here we
comfortable
go.
with this.
I love this.
We've
you
made
guys
it.
at this point. But on my show, I also have a speed round. Do you want to quickly play my speed round?
Let's do your speed round, and then we can do
Oh,
our
then we're
lightning
gonna do
round
our
after
speed round?
the break. Yeah,
Oh,
cool.
see, that's what I say. I might be out of line.
No, it's
you're
fine.
not.
It's fine.
On this show, you're never out of line.
I love it here. I'm just moving in.
That's good.
Okay, so mine is I give you. It's an either or situation.
Okay.
So I give you.
Oh, I mean,
I
this
give you
is
choices
the same
like
as
chocolate or
ours.
vanilla.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Well, I think they're different though. But we'll see. Maybe.
You've never paid us $1, so you don't know.
No.
we might have identical.
Like, have
lightning
you
rounds.
listened to my 380
No,
episodes?
I haven't. So that's why I'm saying they may be the same, but it's fine.
No,
Just go
well,
on.
okay, well, I think I have like 10 or 11. Okay, here we go. Eat in at home or eat out at a restaurant.
Eat out.
Indoor dining or al fresco dining.
Outdoors.
Wine, beer, cocktail, mocktail, or champagne.
Cocktail. All day.
Small plates or large plates.
Large plates.
Tasting menu or a la carte.
A la carte.
Communal table or chef's counter.
Communal.
Tipping or all-inclusive charge.
Tipping.
What's a good Miami one? What this? Oh, Are you more?
I'll see you in the morning.
Okay, sir.
Are
I see you, Gary.
you Miami Heat or Miami Dolphins?
The Dolphins all day. Sucks. I know. It's terrible. It's a terrible place to be.
Open kitchen or closed kitchen?
Open.
Cheese plate or dessert?
Cheese plate.
Last one's Miami or Manhattan
Miami.
or Brooklyn.
Miami.
Miami. Woo.
100.
That's
you go.
my game.
Yeah.
Nice. So thank you, Shari, for joining us for this debacle of a podcast that we do.
I can't wait till she
Thank
sees
you.
our speed around and how fucked up it is.
No,
I love
well, but I don't. Thank you guys so much for having
Oh.
me. Like, this has been so much fun.
Same. If you're paying us on Patreon, you will have access to what's after this
It's just
music.
$1, people.
$1.
$1. After this terrible porn music, you will get the speed round.
And just let it play out because this is where the credits are. All this audio is still going.
We have
in.
credits.
Yeah, all this audio is going to be over the credits.
You could charge an extra $1 for mine.
There you go.
I love that idea.
There you go.
I love that idea.
Trying to help out.
Yeah, I know.
We never
It's
launched.
almost like we're like a stripper. We're trying to get $1.
We never
for
launched
whatever.
Petey's OnlyFans. We used to joke earlier in the podcast that my dog was
I
going to have an
think Petey's
OnlyFans.
OnlyFans would do better than our podcast.